Have you ever wondered what happens when everything falls apart? In today's video, we dive deep into a raw, powerful journey of loss, betrayal, and searching for hope. What does it really mean to face the storm, and who has the final say? There was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uzzi's. He was well known for his integrity, his deep commitment to God, and his strong disdain for evil. Job was a man of honor and was utterly devoted to God, a man who kept his word and upheld the truth in everything he did. He was also incredibly wealthy, a fact that made him the most influential man in the entire region of the East. Job had a large family, consisting of 7 sons and 3 daughters. His wealth was vast, with 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yokes of oxen, 500 donkeys, and more servants than one could count. All these possessions made him the most prosperous and influential figure in his land, living a life full of wealth, family, and health. His children, as was customary, would often host large feasts at their homes. After each of these feasts, Job would rise early in the morning to offer sacrifices for each of his children. He feared that perhaps one of them had sinned in their hearts, even if they hadn't spoken or acted wrongly. Job's sincere concern for his children's well-being was such that he made sure to offer a sacrifice after every gathering, to make sure they were free from any sin that might separate them from God. One day, the angels of heaven gathered before the Eternal to report on the happenings of the earth. Among them was Satan, the accuser. The Eternal looked upon Satan and asked, "Where have you been?" Satan replied, "I have been traveling all over the earth, examining the affairs of men and seeing what is happening in the world." The Eternal then asked, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him on earth. He is blameless, a man of integrity, who fears God and turns away from evil." Satan sneered and answered, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge around him and his household and everything he owns? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased. But take away all that he has, and surely he will curse you to your face." The Eternal responded, "Very well then. All that he has is in your hands, but do not harm him personally." And so, Satan left the presence of the Eternal. Soon after, while Job's children were gathered at the eldest brother's house for another feast, disaster struck. A messenger arrived breathless, saying, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby when the Sabaeans attacked. They stole the animals and killed all the workers. I alone have escaped to tell you." As the first messenger was speaking, another arrived, saying, "Fire from heaven has fallen and burned up the sheep and the shepherds. I alone have escaped to tell you." Just as this messenger was finishing, yet another appeared, saying, "3 raiding parties of Chaldeans attacked the camels and killed all the workers. I alone have escaped to tell you." As if that wasn't enough, another messenger came, saying, "A great wind swept across the desert and struck the house where your sons and daughters were feasting. The house collapsed on them, and they were all killed. I alone have escaped to tell you." Job's heart broke at the news of his family's death and the destruction of his wealth. In his grief, he stood up, tore his clothes, shaved his head, and fell to the ground. But rather than cursing God, he prostrated himself and praised the Eternal, saying, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all his suffering, Job did not sin by accusing God of wrongdoing. Despite the loss of everything he held dear, his wealth, his health, and, most tragically, his children, Job did not falter in his faith. Another time, when the angels came to present themselves before the Eternal, Satan appeared once more. The Eternal asked, "Where have you been?" Satan replied, "I've been roaming the earth, observing all that happens." The Eternal said, "Have you considered my servant Job? He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Even though you incited me against him to destroy him without reason, he still holds fast to his integrity." Satan retorted, "Skin for skin. A man will give all he has for his life. But stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and surely he will curse you to your face." The Eternal responded, "Very well. He is in your hands, but you must spare his life." So, Satan left the presence of the Eternal, and soon Job was afflicted with painful sores from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. The sores were so painful that Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself while sitting in the ashes. His wife, seeing his suffering, said to him, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin with his lips. When Job's 3 friends, Eliphaz from Teman, Bildad from Shua, and Zophar from Nama heard of his misfortune, they set out to comfort him. They traveled from their homes and arrived in Job's land, where they found him sitting in ashes, covered in sores. They barely recognized him, and when they saw him, they wept aloud, tore their clothes, and sprinkled dust on their heads as a sign of their grief. Then they sat down with him on the ground and remained silent for 7 days and 7 nights, because they saw how great his suffering was and did not know what to say. Finally, Job broke the silence. He cursed the day of his birth, wishing that it had never come. He lamented, "Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why is life given to those in misery who long for death, but it never comes?" Job's cries were full of anguish, and he questioned why he was brought into a world where suffering seemed to have no end. His grief was so intense that he asked why God allowed him to live in such agony. His friend Eliphaz, seeing Job's pain, spoke up. "Job, would you mind if I said something? It's hard to remain silent in such circumstances. You have often spoken words of comfort and encouragement to others, but now you are the one in distress. Isn't it true that those who live righteously are usually blessed and prosper? Why then do you suffer? Have you not seen that those who do evil eventually meet their downfall?" Eliphaz believed that Job's suffering must be a result of his own sin, and that only through repentance could he hope for restoration. This set the stage for a long and intense dialogue between Job and his friends, as each tried to understand why such suffering had come upon him, and whether there was a way for Job to restore his relationship with God. Satan departed from the presence of the Eternal and brought upon Job a grievous and unbearable affliction. Job's entire body was covered in painful sores from head to toe, each one itching and burning with an intensity that caused him immense suffering. Finally, after days of silence, Job broke his silence. His pain and frustration boiled over, and he cried out bitterly, "Let the day of my birth be erased from the calendar. Let the night of my conception be forgotten. Let that day be covered with darkness, and let God above have no remembrance of it. Let it be lost in obscurity, shrouded by the night, swallowed by the abyss. May the light of day never find it, and may it be cursed by the forces of chaos, swallowed by the sea monster. May the stars of that day fade, never to shine again. Why, oh why, did I not perish at birth? Why was I brought into this world only to suffer?" He continued, questioning the very nature of life. Why was I not stillborn, like a child who never saw the light of day? There, the wicked no longer trouble, and the weary finally rest. There, prisoners find peace and are no longer stirred by the sounds of torment. Whether rich or poor, the powerful or the weak, they all lie together in peace, free from their troubles. Why, then, should God bring a person into the world only to fill them with bitterness? Why does he allow someone so full of sorrow to live when all they desire is death? Those who long for death are denied it, even when it would be their greatest treasure. His voice cracked with anguish as he asked, "What is the point of life when it no longer makes sense? Why has God given me life if I can see no way out of this pain? Every day, my tears are my food, and my groans are my drink. The very things I feared the most have come upon me. My rest has been shattered. My peace has been stolen. Death, it seems, is the only escape left to me. At this, Eliphaz, the Temanite, felt compelled to speak. He began gently, "Would you allow me to offer some words? I know this is a hard time for you, but in circumstances like these, it's hard to stay silent. I remember how many times you've been the one to comfort those who were on the verge of despair. You've given strength to those who stumbled and hope to those who were at the end of their ropes. But now, in your own time of need, you seem to be losing hope. Does your righteousness not give you confidence? Shouldn't your godly life be a source of hope for you, even in this time of trial?" Eliphaz paused, allowing his words to settle before continuing. "Think about it, Job. Has anyone who is truly innocent ever suffered such misfortune? Has anyone who lives uprightly ever been destroyed? I've seen that those who do wrong, who sow evil and misery, reap exactly that. They fall as if by one breath of God, one word from the Almighty, and they are gone. Even the mighty lion, king of the beasts, loses its strength when its teeth are taken away. Without its teeth, the lion cannot hunt, and its cubs must struggle to survive." Eliphaz believed that suffering was a consequence of sin, and he began to suggest that Job's afflictions were not random but a result of some wrongdoing. His words, though well-intentioned, would begin a series of debates that would continue throughout Job's ordeal, as his friends each tried to make sense of his suffering in their own way. A whisper, like a secret carried on the wind, reached my ears in the dead of night. It came to me in a terrifying dream as I fell into a deep sleep, and what I saw filled me with dread. Fear gripped my heart, and a shiver ran through my entire being. A spirit appeared before me, so unsettling that it made my hair stand on end. The figure I saw, shrouded in mystery, was followed by a voice soft but distinct speaking these words: "How can a mere mortal be more righteous than God? How can man be purer than his Creator? If even God doesn't trust his servants, nor applaud his angels, what does that say about those made of clay? These fragile beings, no stronger than a moth, live for a brief moment and then vanish, unnoticed, as if they never existed. Just as a tent collapses when its pegs are pulled, so too does man. We live and die without understanding why. Ask for help, Job, if you think anyone will answer you. To whom will you turn? Which of the holy angels will you appeal? The bitterness of the foolish consumes him, and the envious wrath of the reckless brings him low. I have seen with my own eyes the irresponsible man who built his house only to have it cursed. His children are left abandoned and abused, with no one to defend them. The hungry and homeless plunder his fields, taking everything, even the thorns. When things go wrong, do not blame fate, for misfortune is part of life. Mortals are born to suffering, as surely as sparks rise from a fire. If I were you, I would run to God, throw myself into His mercy, for He is great beyond comprehension. His deeds are beyond measure, His miracles infinite. He sends rain to water the earth, to nourish the fields. He raises the humble from the dust and provides safety to the afflicted. He frustrates the plans of the wicked, causing their schemes to fail. The cunning are ensnared by their own tricks, their plots scattered like worthless debris. They are disoriented, as if cast into utter darkness, stumbling as they try to move. But God, in His mercy, saves the oppressed from the grip of death and the fist of the oppressor. The poor find hope in Him, while injustice is utterly destroyed. How blessed is the one whom God corrects. Take heed and do not despise His discipline. Yes, He wounds, but He also heals. Yes, He bruises, but His hand binds up the wound. He delivers you from disaster, and no evil can harm you. When calamity strikes, you will be protected. Famine will not overtake you. In war, you will not fall. Even gossip will have no power over you, and in the face of disaster, you will stand unafraid. You will walk among wild animals without fear, and they will no longer harm you. You will find peace with the very rocks and mountains beneath your feet, and the wild beasts will become your companions. You will know that your place on earth is secure, that your possessions are safe, and your children will grow up strong and numerous like the grass of the field. Your family will flourish, and you will live long, like ripe grain gathered in its season. This is how it is meant to be, so listen well for your own good and follow my advice." Job replied, his voice heavy with despair, "If my suffering could be measured, it would be greater than all the sand in the sea. No wonder I cry out like a beast being led to slaughter. The arrows of the Almighty are lodged in me, and the poison of his affliction fills me. Like donkeys braying for lack of pasture and cows lowing when they're hungry, I can't keep quiet. Do you see what God has done to me? The pain is so intense that I cannot eat. My appetite is gone, and my stomach is in turmoil. I feel completely abandoned. All I want is for my prayer to be heard, my final plea to be acknowledged. If only God would strike me down and end this agony once and for all. At least I would die with the knowledge that I didn't curse his holy name. I am at my breaking point. Where is the strength to hold on to hope? What future do I have left that would make me want to continue? Do you think I am made of stone, unbreakable, or iron, incapable of bending? Do you truly believe I can stand up on my own? I have no strength left. When someone is desperate for friends, they deserve to be supported, even if they have lost all faith in the Almighty. But my brothers, my supposed companions, are like streams in the desert. At first, when the snow and ice from the mountains melt, they flow with life-giving water. But by midsummer, they are nothing but dry, cracked earth. Travelers passing through see them and think they've found a source of life, but instead, they find only a parched pit. And there, in that emptiness, they perish. Merchants from Tema, hopeful for water, and travelers from Sheba, longing for a refreshing drink, all come with their hopes high, only to be disappointed by the barren ground that greets them. And you, my friends, are no better. You have not helped me. You see my suffering, yet all you do is shrink back in fear. It's not that I asked for anything from you. No penny, no sacrifice on my behalf. So why do you fill the air with so many evasive, empty words? If you truly know so much, show me something indisputable. Give me the truth. Yes, the truth may hurt, but do you have the courage to tell me honestly what you think? You point out all that's wrong with me, yet your words are nothing but idle chatter. Do you treat people as objects, as mere commodities? Would I lie to you? Look me in the eye. Do you truly think I would deceive you? My integrity is at stake here. Can you not see it? Can you not see the truth of what I am saying? Do you not think I can discern right from wrong? Isn't life itself a struggle, a toil like that of slaves working in the fields? Their only hope the coming end of the day, their reward only in the pay they will receive. I am given over to a life of wandering, a life that leads nowhere. My months are filled with deceit, my nights with endless anguish. I lie down on my bed, but instead of rest, I wonder how much longer I must endure. I toss and turn, unable to sleep, unable to escape the pain. My body, covered in sores and scabs, is a constant reminder of my suffering. I feel the pain in every part of me. My skin is hard, covered with wounds that never stop leaking. And as time passes, my days slip away faster than the hands of a skilled weaver, weaving my life towards an inevitable end. I am without hope. God, remember that I am but a breath. My eyes will never again see good things. And when I am gone, when I am no more, there will be nothing left of me. Like a cloud that evaporates into nothingness, those who go to the grave never return. They never come back to their families, their loved ones. And so, I will not remain silent. I will speak out. My complaint is bitter, but it is honest. Do you want to silence me as if I simply hope for the storm to pass, for the sea to calm? Is that all you think? This is just a passing moment of distress? When I think I can rest, perhaps find solace in sleep, I am instead plagued by nightmares and visions of terror. It would be better for me to die than to live on like this. I despise this life. What use is it? Leave me be. My life is worth nothing. It is but smoke, drifting away with the wind. What are mortals that you care so much for them? Why do you come each morning to check on them? Will you never stop watching me? Why do you not leave me alone? Just for a moment, so that I can breathe. Even if I have sinned, how can that possibly harm you? You are greater than all, the one who holds all in your hands. Why have I become your focus, your target? Why not just forgive me and let me start anew? At this rate, I will soon be gone, and you will search for me, but I will no longer be here. Bildad the Shahide now spoke up, his tone stern. How long will you keep speaking like this? What nonsense. Does God make mistakes? Does the Almighty ever slip up? Surely, your children must have sinned against him. Why else would he have punished them? Now, what you must do is kneel before God. If you are as righteous as you claim, it is not too late. God will restore you, make things right again. Even if you don't believe it now, you will find yourself in a better place than ever before. Take the matter to your ancestors, I am told, and learn from what they have passed down. They are the wise ones, those who have lived long and endured the trials of life. We, the newcomers, have much to learn from them, for our lives are brief, like the grass that grows quickly and withers just as fast. Why not let the wisdom of those before us guide us, teach us their truths and experiences? Just as mango trees cannot grow without the soil, or tomatoes thrive without water, so too do people wither without the foundation of God's guidance. The beauty of a flower is fleeting, and it only lasts as long as the conditions are right for it to flourish. But when those conditions disappear, when the water dries up, when the soil is barren, everything withers. That is what happens to those who forget God. Their hope vanishes. Their lives are like fragile webs spun by a spider, held together by the thinnest thread. One breath of wind, one shake, and everything falls apart. Are they not like thorns that spring up suddenly in the middle of a garden, taking over everything in sight? They spread and spread, choking the life out of what is good and beautiful. But when the gardener comes, pulling them out by their roots, the garden hardly notices their absence. Their removal makes way for the flourishing of the good plants. The wicked may seem to thrive for a time, but their presence in the world only brings harm. Their legacy will be nothing, for God cannot bless the wicked and will not aid those who seek to harm others. Yet there is hope. Even for the broken, there is promise. For those who have suffered, God will restore them. He will make you laugh again, fill your heart with joy, and your enemies will see the ruin of their own plans. They will witness their houses of cards crumble. But Job was not so sure. He knew the wisdom of his ancestors, but the question that burned in his heart remained. How can a mere mortal be righteous in the eyes of God? How could anyone stand before the Almighty and make their case? What chance would they have? God's wisdom and power are beyond comprehension. Who could ever resist him? He's the one who shakes the mountains without anyone knowing, the one who commands the sun and the stars, who stretches out the heavens like a blanket and walks upon the waves of the sea. All of creation is his, and none can fathom the depths of his greatness. His miracles are too vast to count, his works too marvelous for us to understand. And yet, in his presence, Job felt small, insignificant. How could he argue with such a powerful being? Even if he were innocent, what defense could he give? How could he stand before God and claim his innocence when it seemed that no matter what he said or did, it would only be held against him? The more he tried to plead his case, the more his suffering seemed to intensify. The wounds multiplied. The burden grew heavier. Job cried out in despair, asking for mercy. What did it matter if he was innocent? What did it matter if he could understand what was happening? It seemed that the suffering of the good and the wicked was the same. Both the innocent and the guilty were struck by calamity. Life had no meaning. God destroyed both the righteous and the wicked with the same hand, leaving Job to wonder if there was any justice in the world. His life was slipping away, and the joy he had once known felt like a distant memory. The time he had left was like the fleeting passage of a swift ship with a sudden swoop of an eagle coming down to capture its prey. Even when he tried to focus on the good, to find solace in the bright side, the miseries of life ate away at him. No matter how much he tried to convince himself that it would get better, the truth was that he saw no relief on the horizon. He felt condemned, and he wondered how he could ever hope to change the course of his fate. Job felt as if he had already been judged guilty, as if no protest or plea could change the verdict. Even if he tried to cleanse himself, it would be in vain. The weight of his suffering would crush him, and no matter how hard he tried to make things right, he was powerless. He could not stand before God as an equal. There was no mediator to intercede on his behalf, no arbitrator who could break God's grip on him and set him free. His life felt like a heavy burden, a prison from which there was no escape. Job was at the end of his rope. His soul cried out for relief, for an end to the suffering. He could no longer bear the weight of it. With every ounce of strength he had left, he poured out his complaints, his bitterness, his deep sorrow. There was nothing left to hide. He had no more strength to endure, and no one could understand the depth of his pain. He laid bare his heart, fully exposed before God, holding nothing back. Job continued to speak with intense sorrow. His heart was heavy with the weight of his suffering, and he sought answers from God. God, do not declare me guilty without telling me what my transgression is. You created me and called me good. So why do you now afflict me so terribly? Are you rejecting the work of your own hands? Why do you bless the wicked while I suffer? He cried out. Job wrestled with the fact that God, in his infinite wisdom and power, had no need to search for sin in him, yet it felt as if God was scrutinizing him relentlessly. He asked, "Why do you search for guilt in me, as if you were looking for a needle in a haystack? You know I am innocent, yet you press me. You shaped me from the clay, and now you seek to break me apart." He reflected on the miracle of his creation, how God had formed him with such care and purpose, breathing life into him with love. But now, in his suffering, he could not understand why this story seemed to have taken a turn toward destruction. "If I am guilty, I am lost," Job said. "But even if I am innocent, what difference does it make? I am still drowning in my grief. You, God, are too powerful, and I am too weak to fight back." He spoke with anguish about his life, wishing it had never begun. "Why was I even born?" Job cried. "Was it just to suffer?" He longed for a reprieve, a brief moment of peace before death would take him. He could not bear the thought of his life ending in endless torment. "Could you not allow me even a smile before I'm laid to rest?" he pleaded. Zophar, hearing Job's lament, could not remain silent. He was quick to rebuke Job, accusing him of speaking inappropriately and suggesting that Job's suffering was a result of some hidden sin. Zophar claimed that Job's fate was not as bad as it seemed, and that if he would only humble himself and seek God's forgiveness, his troubles would soon be over. He told Job that he could still find favor with God if he repented and sought his mercy. "If you are as innocent as you say, then God will restore you. Your life will be more prosperous than ever before," Zophar asserted. "You must repent now, for God will bless those who turn to him in humility, while the wicked will see their lives crumble into nothing." Job, however, could not accept this simplistic view of his suffering. He responded to Zophar's rebuke, saying that it was easy for those who were well off to make such judgments? You speak as though you have all the answers, but you know nothing of my pain," he said. "You think you understand my suffering, but you do not. Your words are empty. The righteous are often mocked and despised, while the wicked live in luxury. The dishonest thrive in safety, and those who insult God are blessed, while I am left to endure all this misery." Job went on to challenge Zophir's understanding of God's justice, pointing out the discrepancies between what he had been taught and the reality of the world. Look at the world around you. The animals, the birds, the earth, they all have their own wisdom. Can't you see that the human understanding of right and wrong is limited? Job asked. He refused to accept the simplistic view that suffering was always a result of sin, and that prosperity was a guarantee of righteousness. The truth is, we do not understand all the mysteries of God, Job said. God is far beyond our comprehension, and we cannot explain his ways. What is the point of life when the wicked seem to prosper and the righteous suffer? I do not know why this is happening to me, but I know I do not deserve this. Job's pain was deep, and he could not reconcile the goodness of God with the suffering he was enduring. The world, he felt, was unjust, and even those who tried to comfort him failed to offer the answers he sought. His life, once filled with joy, had become an unbearable burden, and he longed for peace, for an end to his torment. Learn the basics from it. Listen to the fish in the sea. They will tell you what they know. Is it not clear that they all agree that God is sovereign and that everything is in his hands? Every living soul, every breathing creature, the ear distinguishes words just as the palate distinguishes food. Do you think that old people have a monopoly on wisdom, that it is necessary to grow old to understand life? True wisdom and legitimate power belong to God. From him, we learn how to live and why to live. If he overthrows something, it is for real. If he imprisons someone, there is no escape. If he withholds rain, drought prevails. If he releases water, everything is flooded. Power and authority belong to God. Both the deceived and the deceiver must answer to him. He strips experts of their credentials, exposes judges as fools without judgment. He strips kings of their fine clothes and ties a rag around their waists. He strips priests of their robes and dismisses high officials from their posts. He silences the voice of the wise and takes away the common sense and wisdom of the elders. He despises the noble and disarms the strong and the mighty. He illuminates what is hidden in deep and dark places and turns darkness into the light of noonday. He makes nations rise and die. He increases a people and scatters them. He takes away the reason of the rulers of the world and makes them wander through aimless lands. They grope in the dark, staggering like drunkards. Yes, I have seen with my own eyes, I have heard with my own ears, and I have understood all this. All that you know, I know too. Therefore, I am not inferior to any of you. I will present my case directly to the Almighty. Now I will appeal to God. I have already presented it to you, and what have you done? You have humiliated me with lies. You are a bunch of charlatans. You are worthless. If you would only keep quiet, you would show wisdom. Listen now as I present my case. Consider my point of view. Or are you going to continue lying in the name of God, making up stories to defend him? Why do you take sides with him? Do you think he needs a defense attorney? What would happen if you were in the dock? Your lies would convince a jury, but what about God? He would intervene immediately if he discovered bias in your testimony. Does not his splendor make you panic? Are you not afraid to lie so blatantly before God? Your statements are airy, wisdom that should go to the gutter. So hold your tongue while I speak. I am prepared for any and all consequences. Why do I always get into trouble when I try to take charge of my life? Because even if he kills me, I still trust in him. But in fact, to the end, I will defend my innocence. Just wait and see my defense. If I were really guilty, do you think I would do this? Who being wicked, would have the courage to appear before God. You should pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully with both ears wide open. Now that I have presented my defense, I am sure that I will be acquitted. Can anyone prove the charges against me? If so, I will keep quiet and may die. Please, God, I have 2 requests. Grant them, and I will know that I can count on you. First, take away my afflictions, for the terror is too much. Second, speak directly to me so that I can answer. Well, let me speak, and you will answer me. How many sins have been held against me? Show me what wrong I've done. Why do you hide, remain silent, and treat me as an enemy? Why do you kick me like an old tin can or a dead dog lying forgotten? I know you have a long list of my mistakes, sins from my youth, but you chain me and I cannot move. You watch every step I take, every move I make. Man is fragile, his life brief, full of suffering, like a flower that blooms only to wither, as fleeting as a passing shadow. Why do you waste your time on me, such an insignificant being? Why drag me to court when there is no point? What do you expect from me? Man's life is so limited. You already know our lifespan, for you've set the limits and no one can surpass them. So give me a little rest until the appointed days are fulfilled. For a tree still has hope. If it's cut down, it might sprout again, even from old, twisted roots. When it feels water, it lives again, like new growth. But what about mankind? We die and cannot return. Once we breathe our last, everything is finished. Like the water of a lake evaporating and the riverbed drying up, a man lies down and will never rise again. Why not just bury me and forget me for a while, until your anger has passed? Set a time when you will remember me again. If a man dies, will he live again? Through all these difficult days, I ask, should I wait for the day I will be delivered, longing for the life you made? You will call to me, and I will answer. You will watch every step I take, but you won't count my mistakes. My sins will be sealed away, thrown into the sea, sinking to the bottom. But just as mountains crumble, rocks shift, and waters erode stones, our hope is worn down. You are too much for us, always having the final word. Our grief shows on our faces, but you send us away regardless. Whether our children prosper or fail, we will never know, and we only carry our own pain and suffering. Eliphaz the Temanite spoke again. If you were truly wise, you wouldn't speak nonsense. You throw words to the wind, trivializing everything. Your sin has taught you this. You've chosen to speak like a scoundrel, and your words betray your guilt. It's not I who say this, but you yourself. Do you think you're the first to face this? Were you there when the mountains were created, when God made everything? What do you know that we don't? What discernment do you have that we lack? Gray hair and age mean nothing. Others are older than your father. On our side are God's promises. Are they not enough? Are our words not comforting? Why do you let your emotions control you? Why speak in rebellion against God, spewing fire in every direction? Do you think it's possible for a mere mortal to be blameless in God's eyes? How can anyone think they are right before God? Why, God does not even trust the angels. Not even the heavens are pure in his eyes. How much more so us, humans, filthy and corrupt, drinking wickedness like water? Listen, I have a few things to say based on my own experience. It's what wise people have always taught, the wisdom passed down through generations of ancestors who once owned this land. For those who live by their own rules, not God's, there's only anguish. The longer they live, the worse it gets. Every small thing, even the slightest noise, frightens them. Just when they think they've found peace, disaster strikes. They live in despair, for their circumstances never improve. It's as though they wear a noose around their necks, constantly searching for something to eat. Each day is a judgment day for them. They live in constant fear, always feeling cornered because they continue to challenge God, to defy the Almighty, forever fighting with him, always on the defensive. Even when they seem healthy, cheerful, and full of life, they will end their days in ruins. They'll sleep in dilapidated, falling apart shacks. They'll never prosper, never save anything, and death will come swiftly. Don't think they'll escape. Their end will be like a dry bush, easily blown over with a breath from God. There's a lesson here. Those who invest in lies will pay for them, and they'll pay in full before the due date. Their lives will be like fruit destroyed before it ripens, or a flower bud plucked before it blooms. The wicked are fruitless, of no value. The life built on bribes will collapse. Those who unite with sin will give birth to wickedness, and only deceit will flow from them. Job then spoke up in his defense. I've heard more than I can bear. You're nothing but fake comforters. Will this nonsense never end? What is your problem? Why do you keep pushing this? If I were in your place, I could respond the same way, pouring out sermons, forcing you to listen, but I wouldn't do that. I would comfort you, console you, try to help, not make it worse. When I speak, it doesn't help. If I keep quiet, it doesn't help either. I'm exhausted. God, you've destroyed me and my family. I'm just skin and bones now. This shows the world that you're against me. When I look in the mirror, I see what you've done to me. Your anger tears me apart. Your teeth gnash at me, and my enemies stare me down. People point fingers at me, mock me, and beat me ... Everyone joins in persecuting me, and God just watches, letting the wicked do what they want with me. I was minding my own business when God struck me. He grabbed me by the neck and tossed me around. He made me his target and surrounded me with archers, ready to shoot without mercy. They've hit me with their arrows, and now I'm wounded, my blood staining the ground. He has destroyed me again and again. He comes at me like a warrior. I've put on mourning clothes and bowed my head to the ground. My eyes are red from weeping, and the dark circles beneath them show the toll. Unlike this, even though I've never harmed anyone, and my prayers have been sincere. O earth, don't hide the evil done to me. Don't silence my weeping or my protests. Know that there's someone in heaven who knows the truth about me, an advocate who can clear my name, my protector, my friend. While my tears are shed before God, He defends me before the Almighty, as one defends a great friend. For there are only a few years left before I reach the point of no return. My spirit is weak, my days are numbered, and the grave is already open before me. Do you see these mockers surrounding me? How much longer must I endure them? Oh God, I need your help. I need your assurance, because you are the only one who can save me. These people can't help at all. You know how lost they are. Do not let them win. Those who betray their own friends will pass down wickedness to their children. God, you have allowed me to be the subject of gossip, and now they mock me. I can barely see through my tears. I am nothing but skin and bones. The upright can hardly believe their eyes, and the good-hearted think I have abandoned you. But those who are righteous stand firm, and those who are pure in heart grow stronger. Do you still have something to say? Are you going to try again? So far, your words have given me no wisdom. My life is about to end. All my plans are shattered. The flame of my hope is gone. They say that night will turn to day, that dawn is coming. But if all I have to look forward to is the grave, if my only comfort lies in death, if I will decay and be consumed by worms after I am buried, how can you speak of hope? Who will help me find it? No, hope will be buried with me. We will rest together in the ground. Then Bildad the Shahite spoke. Let's stop playing games with words. Be honest and reasonable, and we can talk. Why do you treat us like animals? Why do you think we're ignorant? Do you want the whole world to change for your sake? Here's the rule. The light of the wicked will fade. Their brightness will shrink and eventually disappear. Their homes will be darkened, and the light of their lives will go out. Their strong steps will falter, and they will stumble over their own traps. They will fall into their own snares, caught tight in the ropes they've hidden. Terror will surround them on every side. They will run in panic. Misfortune is ready to devour them. They will be torn from their homes and dragged straight to death's domain. Their lives will go up in smoke, and fire and brimstone will cover their ruins. Their roots will rot, and their branches will wither. They will be forgotten, buried like paupers with no name. They will be cast out of the light and into darkness, rejected by the world, coming up empty-handed with no children, nothing to show for their lives. From east to west, all will be horrified by their end. This is the fate of the wicked. This is the end of those who disregard God. Then Job answered and said, "How long will you torment me and crush me with your words? 10 times you have reproached me. Are you not ashamed to mistreat me? Even if I have truly erred, my error remains my concern alone. But if you continue to magnify yourselves against me and argue my disgrace, know then that it is God who has humbled me and set his hand upon me. My brothers have turned from me. My acquaintances are estranged. My relatives have forgotten me. My close friends have abandoned me. My servants ignore my calls. My breath is offensive even to my wife, and my own body is a bag of bones. Have pity on me, O my friends, for the hand of God has struck me. Why do you pursue me as God does? Why are you not satisfied with my flesh? Oh, that my words were recorded, inscribed in a scroll, that they were engraved with an iron tool on lead, or chiseled in rock forever. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and in the end, he will stand upon the earth. After my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes, I, and not another. My heart yearns within me." Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm, saying, "Who is this that obscures my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its foundations set, or who laid its cornerstone while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy? Have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? Have you journeyed to the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep? Tell me, if you know all this. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loosen Orion's belt? Do you send the lightning bolts on their way? Do they report to you, 'Here we are'?" Then Job replied, "I am unworthy. How can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer twice, but I will say no more." Then the Lord spoke again, "Will you discredit my justice? Would you condemn me to justify yourself? Do you have an arm like God's, and can your voice thunder like his? Then adorn yourself with glory and splendor, and clothe yourself in honor and majesty. Let loose the fury of your wrath. Look at all who are proud and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand. If you can do all this, then I will admit to you that your own right hand can save you." Then Job answered the Lord, "I know that you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore, I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes." And the Lord restored Job's fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. His brothers and sisters came and comforted him over all the trouble the Lord had allowed. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. Nowhere in the land were there found women as beautiful as Job's daughters, and their father granted them inheritance along with their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years. He saw his children and their children to the 4th generation. And so Job died, old and full of years. The story of Job teaches us that suffering is not always a punishment, nor is prosperity always a reward. It reminds us that faith must endure even in the darkest moments, and that wisdom comes from humility, not from presumption. Job's journey shows that questioning and seeking understanding are natural, but in the end, trusting God's greater plan brings restoration and peace. We learn that true strength lies in perseverance, and that even in suffering, hope remains. Through faith, integrity, and patience, we too can endure life's trials and emerge stronger.